Welcome back to more Let's Play Metroid Prime. Last time, I believe we cleared out every item in both Magmore Caverns and in Phendrana Drifts, netting us quite a few missiles, power bombs, and I think even an extra energy tank. Not bad. Today, we're going to be continuing to do even more cleanup, going back to the Chozo Ruins and Talon Overworld to see what all we can find. We're getting pretty far up there in our numbers, and let me tell you, it feels darn good. I think one of the best feelings of any Metroid game is getting every upgrade and just seeing all the things you have done and collected throughout the entire game. It is one of the best feelings, I think, in almost any game. And to be fair, that's mostly the completionist in me speaking. It's just nice seeing everything on your checklist done and dusted. Now, remember all that time ago when we fell down that little shaft after fighting a little boss and getting the Varia suit? Turns out, while we could have done this technically a lot sooner, we can go all the way back up to where we fought said boss and find some Chozo ghosts guarding another artifact. Frankly, this was admittedly long overdue, and technically we could have done this much sooner. But I figured waiting till now wasn't a horrible idea, just because I knew it would loop back with all the backtracking we were doing anyways. So I figured waiting wasn't a horrible idea. Plus, with all the extra keys we've been finding and getting, I figured now was a pretty good time. Also, interestingly, magnetic rail system track. In Morphball mode, press and hold R when close to this type of surface. Use the stick to move the ball along the track. For some reason, I guess I didn't rescan that and something happened? I couldn't tell you. I could have swore we had scanned this before, but maybe that was the first one that actually adds the entry to your logbook? And as you can see, those Oculus enemies are rather annoying. Because even when you think you've cleared them and are safe to bomb up, no, you're not safe. Frankly, I'm no fan of them, and they are annoying. But such is the life of a Metroid enemy. They're not there to be convenient for you. At least, typically. Huh. If you notice, back in this here sun chamber, where we fought the flower boss all that time ago, it seems some Chozo ghosts have taken up residence. Which, luckily for us, we have our nifty new visor, which will help us take care of them. Wow, I can't believe that super missile bounced back and actually hit him. Kinda cool. But luckily, while these guys are annoying to fight and track down, at least with the X-ray visor, fighting them isn't all that bad because you can actually actively track them the whole time. The only thing that's kinda rough is that this is a big arena, so actually effectively fighting them, it can be a bit of a pain because they love to move around, and I mean a lot. These guys are seriously mobile. And with them kind of blending in to the background with the visor, it's not the most convenient thing in the world. But, like I was just saying, enemies aren't really meant to be convenient, now are they? Still, not all that bad to fight them. And with our double jump, it's kind of cool coming all the way back here after all this time and getting another artifact. This is the artifact of Wild, the 4th of 12. As you can see, we're only missing 4. Not bad. Not bad at all. And if you remember, many of the artifacts we are missing are question mark artifacts. Ones that we have no info on, which is kind of rough. Also, I like how it takes the game a little time to load these. So, Life Giver, we know about. This one, we have no idea. Nor do we know where, this one is. We do, however, know where World is. And it's in the Great, Chozo Hall. So, at the very least, there are only 2 more hidden artifacts. If you remember, I showed what I thought was the worst hidden artifact in the game. I honestly think they should have told you about one of the hidden ones in Magmore, rather than the ones they chose to actually tell you about. But perhaps that is just me. Still, it's one of those once you know kind of things. And frankly, as much as I love fighting Chozo ghosts, I'm just gonna walk on through here and call it a day. Because I really don't feel like being annoyed by them. So, sorry there, Chozo ghosts. But we're going back to the furnace here, and furthermore, the Hall of Elders. Because we finally have all the necessary upgrades, we can now go get the item that was housed in the furnace, which was up those spider ball tracks, if you remember. Unfortunately, the reason it took us so long to actually be able to get all those things was because we needed to get rid of, and say it with me, Bendesium. Turns out, Bendesium's all over the darn place, and while it seems to be a pretty solid material since missiles can't damage it, it at least is, well, easily taken care of once you have the means to do so. Just so happens that it annoys you throughout most of the game because it takes forever to get the means to actually take care of it. Still, at the very least, it again gives more purpose to continue coming these ways, and frankly, I feel it was in their design methodology of doing that. The reason they put things like that is so you have multiple reasons to go back to areas you may have otherwise not thought of to go back to, which again, I think is really cool. It seems like a really great philosophy in a way in how to do something. Oh, but of course, it can't ever be easy, can it? From one Chozo ghost fight to another. And because these guys are only susceptible to the power beam, super missiles are the highest damage you could possibly do to them, which makes them obnoxious. Luckily, there's not too many. If you see here, turns out there's a whole half-pipe under all this Bendesium. Which, frankly, seems fun. So, simply get on the track. Feel free to bomb the parasites if you want. They're really not all that annoying, to be honest. Simply start making your way through and, well, sooner than later, you'll find yourself a nice little upgrade. If you want to take care of the parasites along this, feel free. Again, it's not really all that worth your time, I feel, because you can just keep moving pretty easily. Now, admittedly, with the shadow being as faint as it is, that one's a little precarious. But simply take your time, move cautiously, and should be able to get this missile expansion pretty darn easy. And now, if you remember all that time ago, this convenient little shortcut. Finally, it starts to play its purpose. Although you don't use it all that often, it is useful. And how much do I want to bet? More Chozo ghosts. Again, they really couldn't help themselves. And yes, it is within the lore that they show up as often as they do. Doesn't mean I gotta like them, though. So feel free to eat up all our missiles. But at least the nice thing about doing this the way we have done it is that we'll have the missile recharge station, which does ease the burden of using up all of our missiles pretty well. Also, cool detail that I don't remember if I pointed out with the X-ray scope. While using it, you can see Samus's arm in her cannon really clearly, which I think is cool. You could see it really good there when she blocked that shot earlier, and you can see it while you're aiming your power beam pretty accurately as well. So although it's a little harder to see right now, you can notably see that her hand changes depending on the beam you're using. Again, it's kind of hard to see it when you're aiming, but the actual hand formation, she's actually doing inside the cannon and has been this whole time. It's honestly a really cool detail that is really easily overlooked. And frankly, I think it's awesome that the devs actually took the time to do that. Because again, it's just a little detail that frankly, unless you really looked, you probably wouldn't ever notice. So for it to be in the game, I think is really awesome. And it's one of those things that really just helps this game feel alive in a sense. Still, this has been a long time coming. Blast the fire shield on that morph ball slot. Hop on in, give it a nice little bomb. And then, turns out, this whole time that statue has been sitting on top of an ice beam door. Kind of weird that it's not a fire beam or plasma beam door, but hey, I'll take it. Because here we have another artifact. Chozo artifact acquired. This is the artifact of World, the 10th of 12. So, we've only got 3 left. Honestly, all the artifact cleanup is a phenomenal excuse to come back throughout the entire game to get all sorts of goodies. Also, I just realized, never went through here. Or at least, we did, and it just is another shortcut that really doesn't do anything. I don't think there's anything actually in or through that room. So, I guess unless you want to complete your map, feel free to ignore it. Still, let's keep on trekking, shall we? We've got a good track record so far, and frankly, there's more to be found. In addition to being found, it seems the Chozo ghosts wish to play. Unfortunately for them, I care not to play. So, expect a lot of me just entering a room and leaving instantly to get rid of them. Because frankly, I really can't be bothered to deal with them. And the fact of the matter is that they don't seal the door. So I don't think the devs really care that you're just straight up ignoring them. Which honestly, I appreciate a lot. Thank you, devs. Which, to be fair, I doubt they'll ever hear me specifically say thank you. And even if they did, it's in English and they're all Japanese. But still, you get the idea. I appreciate what they've done. Now, otherwise, let's look here. We need to go that way. Perfect. Wiggle on through the door, get that nice little steam on our visor. Then again, there's going to be Chozo ghosts. Simply just proceed forward, ignore them incredibly, and be on your way. At least, that's what I want to say, but it occurs to me. There's actually something in this room that we need to go inspect, the watery hall. So, let me backtrack again, because admittedly, I forgot for a mere moment. And let's not go miss something, shall we? This is one of the more, and I would say most, remote things in this game. It is a missile expansion, but where they hid this is real sneaky. Because if you remember, we came back here with the spider ball. But it turns out, if you come into the water, there's this little alcove down here that houses a missile expansion. The other really mean thing is that it's completely off the map. So unless you thought to look at the map where that little dip is specifically, there's no way you'd know that's there. It's one of the more mean things they hide. Though, it's a pretty nice reward for those who are inquisitive enough to go find it. So, I like it. Even if it is annoying and I've missed that missile. Say it with me several times when I've played the game. Still, it's one of those ones that'll always be ingrained in my mind, and that's why I did such a hard wait a minute. I'm forgetting the missile, aren't I? And yes, I was. Still, that's okay. It at least brings back fond memories of missing it, and not anger and frustration, like the artifact in Magmore Caverns did. And so now, after all this time, remember this room I've been teasing? One that we've seen a few times at this point? Well, now that we have, that's right, the grapple beam, we can finally come through here. And with our power bombs, we can blow open this wall and receive the final power bomb expansion. Real tricky. And wouldn't you know, some more Chozo lore. The power of our temple has been enough to halt the spread of the poison on Talon 4, but that which remains thrives and grows more concentrated, gnawing on itself in the dark passages beneath the planet's surface. Whether it can ever be truly destroyed is not for our eyes to see, but there is something else. We Chozo are drifting, tumbling through space and time as the great poison eats away at our sanity. We wake in dreams as the veil of lunacy descends, as past and future blend and shuffle. One image appears and flickers through the landscape, wraith-like. It is the hatchling, the newborn, walking the path of corruption, a lone figure shining in the toxic shadows. She comes dressed for war, and her wrath is terrible. Do our eyes look backward, seeing the hatchling as she once was? Or does she approach even now, arriving in our race's last hour, a savior clothed in machines crafted long ago by Chozo hands? Poisonous clouds drift across our vision. So yeah, even all that time ago, they knew Samus was coming. Not just prophesized, not just suspected, they knew she was coming. And now, for one of the meanest missiles in the game. There's a hidden Morphball entrance here that leads to a single missile expansion. Talk about mean, because you can't really see that. But trust me, it's there. And here we have more Chozo ghosts, which at the very least, they're appropriate for the area they're in, even if they're annoying. Simply hit them with super missiles, and at this point, you should know the drill. They're not all that bad to deal with, but yes, they are annoying. Still, as you can see, they opened up a sick half-pipe for us. So, let's put it to use if I can line it up correctly, my goodness. Sometimes it's best to just not use the stick for a minute. There we go. This will give us some spider ball track. And this will open up a way to go. So evidently, while the other one's cool, we need the one here on the right. Still, I figured it was a nice idea to check which was which. So, simply, I guess just untransform. Hop in here. And luckily, even if you run out the timer, the spider ball track doesn't leave, which is quite good. And you receive an energy tank, the second to last one in the game. So, don't go missing it. Because frankly, seeing an almost full energy bar, I think is just as exciting as seeing the actual full completed one. I think it's a really great measure of your journey, the same way that it was in like The Legend of Zelda, or really any other game that features an extensive health bar upgrade system like that with a finite end and beginning. I really love seeing it all just come together like that. And I'd say the same is true for the missiles and power bombs too. Ow. I also like this little piston room. Who knows what purpose it serves, but it's kind of cool. And here, we finally find ourselves at this grapple point, where this one pesky missile has been this entire time. Man, does it feel good to finally get all of these darn pesky upgrades. I mean, seriously, these things have been plaguing us for how long? And now we can finally grab them. I tell ya, that feels darn good. And, wouldn't you know, that puts us right here, back where we got the Wave Buster, which, if you remember, housed an entire extra room that at this point, I've spoiled, houses another Chozo artifact. Hopefully, as I've been showing off the game, I hope it's really become readily apparent just how much they actually considered the backtracking in this game. How you can do so much all at once on every little trip you make through an area like this. And, you know, how often you'll be harassed by Chozo ghosts while you do it. But point is, I think they did a seriously phenomenal job of making the backtracking so worth it. Because it doesn't feel like, in most cases, they've been mean about hiding these items or putting them somewhere you would just never in your life think to look. I feel most of them have been very honest and shown you from a very early point in the game that, hey, there's something here that you want. Much like this Chozo artifact. Chozo artifact acquired. This is the artifact of Life Giver, the 5th of 12. At this point, there's only 2 left, both of which I believe we don't know where they are. So, that's pretty darn good. Our missile count's looking phenomenal. We have all but 1 energy tank, and we're only missing, what? I don't know, like 40-something, 45-some missiles? We have all the power bombs, all the beams, all the visors. We're doing really darn good. So, I feel pretty great. And at this point, there's even more for us to do. Because remember, this is just the Chozo ruins. We need to make sure we backtrack on the Talon overworld too. Because if you remember that room I showed you with the red door up at the top, there's stuff for us there as well. And then after all that, I believe we should be set to go back to the Phazon mines and clear everything out there as well. Which, wouldn't you know, there are also upgrades in the beginning of that area that we can get from backtracking as well. Seriously, this game is so jam-packed with backtracking goodness that frankly, if you're not a huge fan of it in most games, hopefully Metroid Prime kind of changes your mind on it. Sure, not so many games do it as eloquently as this game does it, but seriously, backtracking can be a lot of fun. It lets you experiment with all your fun new toys you've gotten throughout your journey and see just how powerful you've become. Just glossing through areas that you may have otherwise really struggled in before. I think it seriously is a great thing because it shows the player just how far you've come on a journey. It's one of the reasons I love games like Dark Souls or Pokemon or even, as obvious, Metroid. It really helps you just solidify that fact of, man, I've really been through an entire journey. And it's awesome. I mean, seriously. While it is maybe for some a grim reminder that soon your journey will be ending, I always looked at it triumphantly. Like, hey, I've done all of this and come all this way, made all of this progress. It feels great. And so now, here's something I love that they do. You can see the rain pitter and patter here, letting you know there are platforms to be discovered by the X-ray scope. I honestly really wish that they had done that in several other areas in the game to tell you, like, hey, maybe use your scope here. But, to be fair, this is supposed to be one of the first areas you try it out in and really experiment with it. So I can understand them giving you the general idea of, hey, use this in places where you find a dead end, but there's clearly something beyond it. It's not the worst way of doing things, but I think it could have been a little nicer to new players. And I mean, seriously, some of the missile expansions earlier in the game are just mean. Namely, too, the ones that are in walls in rooms you would never think to use the X-ray scope. Those are the big ones I'm talking about. So, namely, Magmore Caverns is really my biggest complaint. But past that, that should pretty much be everything here, too. Seriously, we've done a phenomenal job of cleaning things up. And again, I might be wrong with some of it, but it should be pretty much everything. One thing I do really wish the game had, which it technically does, is an item count. The big issue with the technicality is that usually it requires you to have beaten the game and then replay it on the same save file in like a New Game Plus sort of style. It's not my favorite thing, and to be fair, I don't know if this version of the game has that. I'm pretty sure the re-released version of it, both on Nintendo Switch and I believe the Wii Trilogy version, has an item count once you've beaten the game at the very least. It's one of those things that for new players who have, gone through the game and then thought to myself, wow, I actually really liked that and I want to go back and get everything, it's a nice feature. It's just, you gotta beat the game already. And you can't get it on the first playthrough where it would probably matter more. Still, beggars can't be choosers. It's at least a nice feature they added. And frankly, it is nice that it's there for people who really care and don't want to use a guide per se. Namely for people who have more free time than others. Still, admittedly, don't ever have shame in using a guide for a game like this. Again, sometimes things are just plain mean. For reference, the Chozo artifacts are not optional. You need to know to use your X-ray visor on that random pillar in order to find that object. So the fact that, the game has now probably instilled in you a sense of paranoia, thinking, oh, I need to use this in every room in the game, isn't phenomenal, but at the very least, it makes you thorough. So, try to look at the positives, I suppose, even if they really seem like pretty big negatives. But anyways, like I've been saying, The game does a phenomenal job of actually backtracking and making it feel like there's real purpose to it. You're not just treading ground to tread ground. You're not just returning because the game didn't have a fast travel system and it took forever because it just took forever. You're doing it because not only can you find items you missed and things you might remember, but it's giving you a chance to show off just how far you've come. I know I'm kind of repeating myself a bit here because frankly, well, we're repeating our gameplay, backtracking to several places and, well, ideally having a good time. I know I am, but you get the idea. There's not exactly a whole lot you can talk about during segments like this where it's just straight up, yeah, we're going back and forth and that's all we're doing. Now, that's where me, if I was actually good at what I do, I would tell you a fun story or something. But sometimes it just evades you and that's all there is to it. Still, after all that, we've made our way back to the Phazon mines. I know it took a little while, but hey, we cleaned out so many items. And at this point, with our missile count, I believe we're only missing 6. So in the game, we have 6 more missile expansions and 1 more energy tank to get, which is phenomenal. We've done great. And, talk about a hostile welcome. Now, if you notice, this elevator is going to bring us to completely new areas that we have not been in before at all. So to be completely honest, coming this way may not be the best idea. Because frankly, there are items you might want to grab the normal way. But I figured, seeing as this is probably your easiest way to get back here, I should show this method of it, with all the benefits and negatives that come with it. Now, because we also have our lovely new beam, we're going to find a new enemy in here. At least, yep, there he is. Come here, buddy. Let's give you a scan. New creature, morphology, plasma trooper. Space pirate armed with plasma beam technology. Space pirates have reverse engineered several of your weapons, including the plasma beam. A flaw in the design makes these pirates vulnerable to their own beam weapon systems. These weapons are inferior to your Chozo designed originals, but still quite potent. So yeah, we've now scanned all of the elemental troopers, and frankly, they're an alright gimmick. I don't hate them. At least all but the shock trooper. This guy's the worst. Still, not too much you can do. Now at least, if you want a quick kill on most of these enemies, you can just drop them in the Phazon below, which is really helpful. Otherwise, quite the welcome room, huh? Now, admittedly, this is actually supposed to be an exit rather than an entrance. But, for our purpose, it'll work as an entrance. And it'll help us get one of the last missile expansions we're missing. So for that, I'm at least thankful. What I'm not thankful for is being shot at by this guy. Get out of here. Beautiful. And of course, there are pesky super turrets. But even the plasma beam takes them out in one shot. So most of these enemies, while they were annoying, are pretty easily dealt with, which I think is really nice. Otherwise, here we have some normal platforms we can see. But at this point, you're probably so used to having to use this scope to find things you can't see that, well, they may as well be invisible, to be completely honest. And one thing I don't think I've actually really mentioned while playing the game, you can absolutely just roll out of these little morph ball holes at any time. If there's no guard railing, you're on your own for staying in there. So, hopefully you've not accidentally rolled out and gotten yourself hurt real bad, but the possibility is there. Also, hello Bendesium rock slide. Admittedly, that's kind of the reason I didn't want to go there the first time we were here, because, well, we didn't have a lot of power bombs. We had a fair few, it's just, I knew there were things that I wanted more immediately than to unlock a passage that brought us to a missile that also needed an extra power bomb. Still, to be rather honest with you, we've got a lot coming up ahead of us. And a part of that is going to be, say it with me now, backtracking again. So, next time we play Metroid Prime, we'll backtrack a little bit through Phazon Mines and then finally see some new stuff. As always, I'm Brad, thanks for watching, and have a good one.